So they're making a new G.I. Joe movie, and now we know. And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! Welcome back to StillerBros at the movies, ladies and gentlemen.
And today we are going to see the new G.I. Joe movie, Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origin.
Or whatever they decided to call it.
I mean, G.I. Joe Origin, I guess, is in the title somewhere, I don't know.
So this is a movie I'm sure a lot of people have forgotten they made. Mostly because Paramount Pictures, for some reason, is barely promoting this.
Also, people probably forgot that this movie was even getting made at all, because I can't imagine a lot of people realized that this movie was even getting made.
See, the thing about the G.I. Joe movies is that they're kind of these dumb popcorn movies. I mean, they're fun, dumb popcorn movies. They're not like Fast and Furious, Fantastic, or anything like that. But some people went to see them in theaters. They were fun and everything like that. But here's the thing: those movies were also kind of felt like dirty little secrets, like something that the studio put out, but it felt like they didn't want you to see it.
Like, it was weird. Like, you go to the theater and it's like, this definitely snuck into a movie. They definitely snuck this into a movie theater on a cover of night.
It's not like they were. Once again, not to say they were the worst thing ever. It's just that they were barely promoted. They never had a lot of. They were never mainstream popular, and it feels like in some cases they only made the sequel. Some kind of obligation, but they still made 2 other G.I. Joe movies. So let's talk about them. G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra was directed by Steven Sommers, and it was basically his directorial follow-up to all 3 of his Mummy movies, all the way down to Brendan Fraser cameo that nobody really talked about because it came and went in in the span of a montage.
But Channing Tatum is in it. He has had a lot to say about the franchise since his departure from the franchise. Mostly just saying that he didn't want to do it. It was a contractual obligation, and that ended up getting stuck with it.
Then G.I. Joe 2 was directed, as we pointed out earlier this year, by John M. Chu, the director of now In the Heights, Crazy Rich Asians, all kinds of stuff like that. Which is kind of why it's kind of weird that he's not directing this one. We'll get to it. Anyway, but it was directed by John M. Chu. It was clear from the get-go that they had a lot less money to play with, considering the fact that the first movie's climax took place as a submarine battle in the Arctic with a bunch of bombs and stuff going off, mostly CGI. By the way, here's another weird thing about the G.I. Joe movies. It was like the first one was like the second installment in the 3 years that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was suddenly in like every movie.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. It's kind of weird that way, right? It came out like right before or right after, I can't remember, 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, and then it was like during just like at the beginning of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Renaissance era of his career.
And that basically kicked off the very small window where suddenly it's like Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in Premium Rush and Looper and he wrote and directed Don John and he hosted Saturday Night Live twice. Granted, all that was off the strength of 500 Days of Summer, but I'm pretty sure they were making G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra before 500 Days of Summer really started kicking off.
Yeah, but enough about that. We also had, again, Channing Tatum was in the first 2. However, they killed him off in the second one because he really did not want to be there. Again, he really didn't want to be there.
And you could kind of tell that the budget was gone because where the first one had this gigantic army base, impractical army base for the G.I. Joes to play around in complete with gigantic pool that they could do submarine drills in. The second one, Cobra killed this small platoon of this like medium-sized platoon of of soldiers, and left only like 3 or 4 people, and they were walking around like, well, guess G.I. Joe's dead.
Yeah, but now they're basically going, okay, we had that whole franchise, fuck it, we're now just gonna start from scratch.
But they're also kind of promoting it on the back of those movies, because one of the big things that they're doing with the advertising when they're pushing certain critical points is saying it's the best G.I. Joe movie ever. kind of a low bar to clear, but whatever.
Yeah, but now we can talk about this movie.
So Snake Eyes, so G.I. Joe origin movies was kind of a thing that they were talking about doing for a while, when Hasbro was like, we're gonna make our own toy-centric cinematic universe. So we're gonna make Snake Eyes, and we're gonna make all these other ones, and so Snake Eyes. So
And it's not like Snake Eyes was a bad character to start with. He's a very interesting character based on the fact that he's very mysterious about his past in the G.I. Joe mythology.
In the mythology, he doesn't talk, no one mentions what his past was.
People barely know what he looks like.
Even the characters the characters in most of it, they don't talk about it. In the first two movies, he was played by martial artist Ray Park, who did not speak. In the case of those movies, they were, rather than go with the grisly version of why Snake Eyes doesn't talk in the toys mythology, they were just like, he took a violent silence. This time around, we don't know how exactly everything is gonna fit in.
Yes, but another thing about Snake Eyes is that apparently in a lot of the continuities, he's depicted as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy.
So basically, this is the first time that the ninja in G.I. Joe is actually depicted as Asian, because this time around they cast Henry Golding, who is probably best known for his role as Nick Young in the almost cultural phenomena of a romantic comedy that is Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes, a Malaysian-born actor playing a character who was originally always kind of intended to be a white guy. So already we're kind of taking some pretty good steps in a good direction.
Though the weird thing, once again, because they're kind of banking on the other two G.I. Joe movies, they're kind of selling it as a prequel. It's kind of hard to do that when at least 3 of the other characters in this movie are characters from those first 2 movies.
Yeah.
Because in this one, we have the Baroness and Storm Shadow coming back, because, let's face it, you can't make a Snake Eyes movie without Storm Shadow.
And then you also have the character of Scarlet, who was in the first one.
And this time she's and Scarlet is pretty much the only one who's played by an actor we've heard of for the most part, because she's played by Samara Weaving.
Yes. Who I think, if I recall correctly, was actually up for the role of Elena in Black Widow.
So that's interesting.
But we've also seen her in Bill and Ted Face the Music last year, so there was also that.
Yeah, where she played Bill's daughter Tia. Yeah.
Yes.
Also in the mix, we've got a German action director who I cannot remember the name of for the life of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is one of those movies where they already are hiring screenwriters for a sequel. Doesn't mean it's greenlit or anything. They're just shopping around the idea of a sequel.
Yeah, so there may be so they're kind of banking on a sequel, and like with the other 2 major martial arts movies coming out this year from major studios that launched a streaming service around the time of the pandemic. This is gunning for a sequel, because we already had earlier this year Mortal Kombat, and then later this year we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
And so far, only one of them is probably guaranteed to be heard past this year. Mortal Kombat was not good. I watched it on HBO Max, and it was not. And it was surprisingly boring for an action-based martial arts movie.
Yeah. But yeah, so now let's hope this, just for the sake of the very talented people involved in this movie, that this comes out at least decently watchable.
This is one of those times where we haven't actually seen the reviews yet. We haven't seen the majority of the reviews yet because like I said, Paramount. It's almost like Paramount doesn't want people to know that this movie is coming out. It's almost like they're only releasing it because they have it in the ledgers, and they need to actually put it out somewhere.
Yeah, and they don't want to dump it on Paramount Plus.
like it's gonna be on Paramount Plus in us in like a couple of weeks, I think. But there is a spot for it. But it is coming out.
Yeah.
It's coming out in competition with the new M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Not to say that is a much of a competition, but it is. But that's the competition it's up against.
So, yeah, let's see what we got.
Yeah.
After the jump. And so that's the end of that, and it's pretty okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably go without seeing it, but it's
a very, it's a fill. It's a good way to kill a couple hours.
It's probably another one of those Saturday afternoon movies, rainy day movies that we occasionally talk about when we do a certain action scene.
Yeah, there's an
action movie. It'll just be like, if it's on in the middle of the night on cable, then go ahead, let it sit. It's fine.
It's fine. I mean, I'm glad I saw it, and I'm interested, and I would be very interested to see more.
The thing of this is that it's a somewhat generic ninja movie, with G.I. Joe elements kind of awkwardly stapled on, but it's a good version of that.
Yeah.
Though as was just stated, the G.I. Joe elements are kind of weirdly stapled on.
Yeah, it feels very. You're very far into the movie before anything G.I. Joe related comes into play.
Granted, look, this is the kind of movie that you say that has such wonderful setup dialogue to a character's arc as making that face again, like a storm, like the shadow before a storm, stuff like that.
I mean, like, we can talk a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more about it. This film is competently made and written to a degree.
There's just one little problem with it, and it's kind of a big issue when it comes to an action movie, and that's Robert Schwenke's action sequences are not that particular, are kind of weird here and there. You know how people knock Michael Bay for his use of shaky cam, his inconsistent fight geography, all that kind of stuff? This movie kind of has that in spades during certain action sequences.
And this is the guy who did, like, Red and stuff like that, so he knows action to a degree.
So not sure what the thing is here, but there's a lot of action sequences where it'll be like, please stop moving the camera. I have no clue where half of these characters the characters I'm rooting for are.
Even though it's a lot of it, you can tell that it is Henry Golding and these actors doing a lot of the actual stunts themselves at certain points.
You can at least kind of see it, but the fact of the matter is, there's certain. Essentially, occasionally you'll see the camera start to shake a little bit, and you're gonna be like, great, another action sequence where I have no fucking clue where the characters I'm supposed to like are standing.
And it doesn't help that pretty much almost the entire third act takes place in the dark.
Granted, this is the point where the camera actually starts to stand still for a minute.
But even then, it's kind of hard to make out who's who.
But once again, it's a pretty well written and well made version of the
it's the best you can expect.
Ninja intrigue Yakuza movie. Like, there's a twist very early on in the movie that is very well handled.
Like, it's a pretty good twist to have it definitely shakes things up to have this twist happen at the beginning of the movie, like at the end of the first act of the movie.
At the end of that, it makes this twist that completely reorganizes the entire movie in your head. That almost everything that's come before it in your head. Like you're thinking, okay, so this in the context of this, it recontextualizes everything. It was well pulled off, and it makes you kind of question the motives of some of our characters for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And Henry Golding, as an actor, he's mostly done romantic comedies up until this point. He's mostly done and in those romantic comedies, he has had the context in which he can keep his natural British accent. This movie, on the other hand, the character Snake Eyes, which is the only name we ever get for him, is supposed to be American. We don't know a lot of specific stuff about his past, but we know that. But that's one of the things we know. He's as a child, when we first meet him in the beginning of the movie, he's in Seattle. Then he goes to L.A. But he's American. So Henry Golding, for the first time as an actor, actually has to put on an American accent.
And benefit of the doubt, because Henry Golding is not a trained actor. He never had to.
He was not until about 3 years ago. He wasn't actually. He did, as far as we know, he had no aspirations to become an actor
until Crazy Rich Asians came along. But the reason that we are bringing this up is because as the movie goes through, there is some inconsistencies in Henry Golding's American accent.
There are points where it will be good, where it will be like he's doing this tough guy, gruff voice in an American accent. But other times it'll be like, do you know where Tommy is?
Like sometimes his British will slip out. Sometimes he'll slip into Southern. Like the scene where he's first introduced, he uses a lot of ain'ts,
which obviously is for an American tough guy colloquialism, but it also could have been essential. But he stops using them after that. So
I mean, it's fun. But he uses a lot. But it's drawl. But he kind of puts on will occasionally put on a Southern drawl and stuff. Like, I get that it's not his native accent, and he never probably had to worry about accent work at all, but I don't know. A lot of it also helped to hide helped his accent a little bit, that he just kind of growls and shouts a lot of his dialogue, so that you can't really hear a lot of him talking.
He can get better. I feel like he can. It's like how Emma Watson in The Circle was having a bit of a tough time. Remember The Circle, kids? Oh wait, no, they probably don't, because
Lucky you.
We actually saw a lot more of that than we probably should have.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's in that movie, Emma Watson is doing an American accent for an extended period of time. I think for the longest she's had to for a movie, and at times it worked, at times it doesn't. At times her British comes out. I feel like if Henry Golding does a few more movies where he actually is allowed to play with an American accent a bit more, he can get better. Like, we haven't seen Little Women, but I'm pretty sure that considering that Emma Watson was one of the people praised for her performance in that she finally figured out how to keep her American accent consistent for more than one scene.
Yeah. Same with Perks being with being a wallflower.
So, but yeah, we're spending a lot of time on Henry Golding's accent. It's kind of, but once again, this is a pretty decent ninja movie. It's got Yakuza intrigue and all that kind of stuff. The biggest issues we have with it really are, like we said, the action sequences are a little inconsistent because they actually because it's kind of hard to see where everybody is from time to time, particularly because weirdly a lot of the Yakuza characters are dressed exactly the same as Snake Eyes, and the character of Tommy, who I wish they had called him Thomas more throughout the movie, because it feels kind of weird to call this big tough guy Tommy.
Yeah.
But and the other one being that the G.I. Joe elements feel like they didn't really need to be in there.
But at the same time, it feels like they should have done more with the G.I. Joe stuff.
Like it's a Snake Eyes origin movie. That's what this movie was created for. But also it feels like you could theoretically cut a lot of the G.I. Joe Cobra stuff and just make it and the movie would still be as good as it is, which is not fantastic, but just good enough to be like, I think I'll want to be like, oh, Snake Eyes is on TV. I think I'll watch this while I'm folding my laundry.
It's not exactly a movie that is going to. It's not like Iron Man, where it's like, this is great. Let's let's make more movies just like this.
But it's also not X-Men Origins Wolverine, where you can sit there and riff it. We did sit there and riff it, by the way.
Just a little bit.
But that's just how we are. We're snarky. We're kind of snarky that way.
We're kind of snarky douchebags. We were snarky douchebags before we knew what MST3K was, and we will be snarky douchebags long after MST3K is gone forever.
Hopefully that won't be for a long time. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snake Eyes. It's fine. It's basically every ninja movie that you've probably ever seen put in a modern setting. It's basically a late '80s action movie with 2021 on quality thrown over the top of it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's nothing to be upset about, truly upset or annoyed about. It's just a generic movie that you probably won't remember after a while.
Also, I would point out that the third act has a long scene where our main male character is flanked by 3 incredibly capable women, who do just near as much ass kicking as he does. So that should piss off the exact same people who are pissed off about the new Masters of the Universe reboot, about what the new Masters of the Universe reportedly does. We haven't seen it yet, and we don't know if that's actually what it does.
We'll see it tomorrow.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it, guys. Snake Eyes, a pretty good version of what it is trying to be. So be sure to until next time, be sure to subscribe to this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to tune in next time when we explore the 8th wonder of the world, the backside of water. Bye.
Bye.